listen here, man. If we have any more level of parity in these last 10 games, I might pull out what hair I don't have. Hey, look, last night, man, so, it felt good to get behind the camera yesterday and give y'all another episode of the RissKy Powerhouse and you back again. Back-to-back days. Look, man, found some time, where we can get it done. Try to get to y'all once a week, every weekend now, so y'all start looking forward to the videos on the weekend, Fridays and Saturdays. That's where my schedule have opened up. So gotta get the personal life straight first. Then, the auxiliary things that you do to try to build up. You can put more emphasis on that. But anyway, so I tried to get, whatever games I could last night. I stumbled across the Nuggets and the Bucks. And it was a big time matchup because of the MVP race. But when you also look at that number one seed for the Bucks, they kind of need that. So yeah, by now you've seen the title. We're gonna talk about the Eastern Conference today. We talked about the Western Conference logjam yesterday. If y'all haven't checked that video out, y'all should go leave a like in the comment. Boom, plug. But when you look at the East, I think the East is way more transparent. You can see exactly what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at the West, it's more of a crapshoot because every single team kind of have a glaring deficiency, and other teams have strengths that are undeniable when healthy. So you kind of got to consider every team a bit. When you look at the East, you have Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. Most people are expecting one of those three teams to be, one of the teams to come out of the conference and win it all. But in my opinion, I think it's going to be Milwaukee. I thought that game yesterday was telling because first, it was close. The first half, I think Milwaukee went into the half up 2 or 3, something like that. But Denver turned defense up, and a lot of people not going to give them credit yesterday for what they did defensively. But they actually did a good job in the third quarter and in the fourth quarter of holding off Milwaukee's offense and, prevailing in the fourth quarter to pull away. When you look at Milwaukee, though, that's still my pick to come out of the East. They're just the most complete team on offense and defense. I think Boston have the most depth. But I think the pieces that Milwaukee is going to put on the floor all are going to be able to help, with Giannis, with Drew, with Brooke, with Bobby, with Chris. Chris is not that guaranteed go-to number 2 guy anymore. Drew Holiday have taken over that role this year. But when you look at what Brooke Lopez can do for you on any given night, when you look at what Drew Holiday, I just mentioned him, he can get you 20 to 25 points as well as make and play defense on the best player on the other end. So when you look at what he brings, he going to be able to play a lot of minutes because he can defend. Same with Brooke Lopez. If you can't play the drop coverage, you got to switch out a little more. You can switch out Bobby Portis, put him at the 4, put Giannis at the 5, and work the defense a little differently than when Brooke Lopez is on the court playing drop coverage. So with the Bucks, I think it's going to be hard for any team to outlast them, in a 7-game series. Now, even though they lost that game yesterday, I think they won like 7 or 8 of their games out of their last 10. They're not a top 10 offense, but they're by far one of the best defenses in basketball, and they had the pieces that I mentioned. So when you look at the Boston Celtics, with Marcus Smart, with Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, he had a slump. He's been fighting through an ankle injury, if I'm not mistaken, but he's on the court. And when you look at how they've came out of the All-Star break, they haven't been on fire. They haven't been losing a lot, but they kind of been teetering in the middle. They haven't really took that stride like they did last year heading into the playoffs. But when you look at the depth, it's undeniable with Smart, with Brown, Tatum. You have Horford and Williams. Now, Williams got to get healthy as well. I'm not sure about the update on his health and when he's going to be back. But, if you have Horford and Williams, then you have Grant Williams coming off the bench with Brogdon and Derek White. That's a lot of depth. Then you could throw in whoever your 7th and 8th, whether it's Sam Hauser at a small forward position or if it's Luke Cornett coming off the bench. You never know which one of those 8th or 9th guys is going to be, but they're not going to play maximum minutes anyway, so you just need a spot filler to pretty much occupy a role temporarily. The Boston Celtics play offense and defense, though, and they've been building throughout the course of the year as a group. Haven't been a lot of sideshows or whatever. You had the thing with Jaylen Brown speaking about, maybe his future, but I think that's a PR job, to get the contract on the table. If you look at Jaylen Brown last contract he signed 4 years, $117 million. When you look at Jordan Poole signing 130, Tyler Hero signing 120. You're looking at R.J. Barrett signing 130. You look at John Collins, who did less, signed 125 for 5 years. Jaylen Brown is probably looking for the max that he qualifies for and being an all-star, being that second option, averaging 27 points a game. I think it'd be foolish for Boston to figure out a way to get out of paying him a max. When you look at the other players that's been maxed with Donovan Mitchell, with Gobert, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, Jalen Brown have been more consistent, and playing offense and defense than all of those guys. Maybe not Donovan, but you know, it's arguable. You get what I'm saying? He's a consistent player. He's there more times than not. He's dealt with some hamstring issues, but when he's available, which is 80% of the time, he gives everything he got, and that's a high level. It's hard to find two versatile wings, the wing depth in the league, in my opinion, is the biggest and most important factor to fill in. Versatile players that can play multiple positions on offense and defense, and they can play big minutes because of that. Because of that reason, you can play them on a lot of different spots on the floor, and being that, it's not any one thing a defense can hone in on to take them away. So with the Boston Celtics, they have to prioritize bringing Jalen Brown back. But for this year particularly, it's just going to be a matter of them getting in the playoffs and doing what they know to do, what they've been doing all year, and even last year, making the finals run. They should want to stack on top of that. Now, Philly, I wore the Harden jersey because, this year Harden haven't been getting a lot of credit for what all he's been doing. People don't really realize the validity of the level that he's been sustaining all season, shooting a career high from the field, 48%, career high from three, 40%. He was at 40%. He might be 39. He might be 41, but he's been around 40% all year, which is a career high. Even if he don't clear 40, if it's 39, still a career high. His free throws always been there, but when you look at the 21 points, 11 assists, becoming a pure playmaker, who can also get 20 within the floor of the game. His turnovers are down. When you usually look at Harden, he give you 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 turnovers, even 5 turnovers in the 2017 season where he averaged NBA record 5.7 turnovers per game in one season. That's a testament for him to come out this year, average a career high in assists, nearly 11 assists, and 3.4, 3.3 turnovers. That's one less turnover per game, which is on average 82 less turnovers in a season, which is tremendous. That's a emphasis on what he's prioritizing. And some people could call it a contract year, some people could call it whatever, but I think he's comfortable, he's healthy, got Embiid carrying the load, playing at an MVP level, leading the league in scoring, averaging nearly 34 points per game, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal and a block. Harden give you 21, 11, and 6. Those numbers can get it done. But this is where most people, fall out of Harden. The closer we get to the playoffs, right now he's been out the last 2 or 3 games dealing with some injuries, but he's supposed to be back soon. It's not anything serious. But the closer we get to the playoffs, the more people fall away from Harden. And he wasn't awarded an All-Star this year, so that's letting the media is kind of off of what he does. Is he going to be All-NBA? He should, but who knows? I think they're kind of gearing him to, feel disrespected and to come out and have a big playoff because this is his time. When you think about it, he's 31, 32 years old, been on 4 teams in 2.5 years, or 3.5 years, excuse me. But when you look at it, if him and Embiid come out and do what they're supposed to do you have the support players like Maxey, the players like Tobias Harris. Both of them get 15 to 20 points a game. And then you have other guys hitting shots like DeAnthony Melton, Shake Milton, Georges Niang, Paul Reed coming in playing some backup 5, maybe 10 to 15 minutes a game in the playoff scenario. Those guys got to play well to support what Embiid can do. Embiid not going to be able to carry it on his own. And that's where, when you look at offense and defense, players like DeAnthony Melton, Shake Milton, Georges Niang, Tobias Harris, they're going to, even Tyrese Maxey, they're going to have to be big on defense in that second round because they're going to see Boston in the second round on the road. As we speak right now, Boston have 51 wins, Philly have 49 wins. Philly have 25 losses and Boston have 23 losses. They're a complete 2 games ahead, and they're 4 games out of the number 1 seed. So it's only 8 games left. So they're probably going to have the 3 seed 9 times out of 10 unless Boston falls out. And that means they're going to have to play Boston in the second round on the road. I have Philly coming out of the first round, whether they see Brooklyn, whether they see New York, whether they see Miami. They're going to beat all those teams. I think Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee are all going to win in the first round. Now, when we get down to the 4 or 5 matchup, the Knicks and the Cavs, the Cavs have home court right now. It's a 4.5 game difference, so they should close in with home court. I think the Cavs have built the team the correct way. When you look at their timeline, drafting Colin Sexton in 2018 in the same season where they extended Kevin Love after LeBron left. Then you draft Darius Garland. You trade in the next year. You trade for Jared Allen. You extend him 5 years, $100 million, which looks like a steal right now. The following year, you sign Lowry marketing. You also trade for Karis LeVert from Indiana. You draft Evan Mobley. You make the right moves. You show some signs of moving towards competitiveness. They had a pretty good year last year, dealt with some injuries in Colin Sexton, Ricky Rubio. A lot of guys missed time. But when you look at what they did that following offseason by taking Lowry marketing, Colin Sexton, and those picks, and going to get a guaranteed 26, 27 point per game score, 30-point playoff performer, Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell have made a big difference in the Cleveland Cavaliers season thus far. He started off high, averaging 31 points per game for about the first 20 games or so. He cooled off, but that's human nature. I'd rather him start high than to start low. So I think now he's averaging about 28. And the Cleveland Cavaliers are comfortable in that 4 seed. They're more so fighting for the 3 seed than the chances of falling to the 5 seed. So Philly about to really watch their back. Cleveland right now 8-2 in their last 10. So they're making a push towards the playoffs. If it was me, they have the number 1 defense in the league. I'll take them over the Knicks because Evan Mobley can guard Julius Randle one-on-one, no double team. And then when you just look at Darius Garland and Mitchell, they have to sustain the player like Brunson. What's your kid name? Grimes, Quickly, McBride, maybe Derrick Rose. You never know. But they have to sustain those players and just funnel them into those bigs with Jared Allen and Mobley. And that's how I think they're going to outlast them. When I look at the Knicks, I don't think losing in the first round is a disappointment this year. You're making strides towards being better. I don't think it should be a move that they do this summer because they lose, that, you just do something that's overreactive and, negate all of what you're building on. I think they should build on these young players. And even if you move a player like Obi Toppin, let's say they want to move Obi Toppin. If you're going to move that player, attach 1 pick to him and go get a veteran, I understand the timeline might not fit or the fit might not go because you got to play Julius at the 4 and you can't play them at the 4 and the 5 together. So maybe that's the mentality. I understand this, but don't go and trade 3 or 4 of your young guys plus RJ Barrett and some picks to go get a player that's not good enough. The Knicks are notorious for doing that, jump starting the process and rushing it and then taking 2 or 3 steps back within a 2-year stint. So we'll see where they go with that. The Brooklyn Nets, I love Mikal Bridges. I love these stories. I love the young player that keep growing. I love the wing players that play defense and is efficient on offense. When you look at Mikal Bridges in the Suns, he was suppressed into a role he had to fit under Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, and the system that Monty Williams had implemented. And it proved to be a good system. The number 2 seed the first year, the number 1 seed the next year, they made a finals appearance. So they did what they had to do with what they had and what they thought they could do. But now we're seeing Mikal Bridges in a new situation to flourish. He signed a 5-year, $92 or $93 million extension last summer, if I'm not mistaken. So he's on a great deal long term, and he's averaging 26 points per game since he's been in Brooklyn. 26 points per game. And although they fell from the 3 seed to the 6 seed, they're sustaining with what they have. They're doing as much as they possibly can to remain relevant as a team. I believe this season, the outcome of this season really isn't a testament to who they are or where they are. But I think the next move will tell the direction of where they think their team should go with Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, Seth Curry, Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, Royce O'Neal, Mikal Bridges, Nick Claxton. You have a lot of players to where you have to make decisions on the age. Do you want to go younger? Do you want to try to go get a star? Do you want to try to package something up? I don't know what their intentions are, but I like having Mikal Bridges being able to grow. If he can come in next year as that number 1 option, take an offseason to prepare to have the ball, make reads, and score the ball at a high level with that shot, I see a Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard type of trajectory. I'm not saying he's going to win 2 championships, 2 defensive player of the years, and all of that. I'm talking about the skill set on the floor. Can you get me 25 to 27 points per game, 5 to 6 rebounds, shoot a 3, shoot a mid-range, and get to the rim, get to the free throw line efficiently, and make a couple of plays for your teammates. I don't need you to average 8 assists. You're not LeBron. I don't need you to be LeBron. I just need you to get me 3 or 4. And I think Mikal Bridges can possibly grow into that player. Next year is going to tell a lot. This offseason is going to tell a lot. The Miami Heat. Now, a quote came out yesterday. I'm not sure if it's true, but Jimmy Butler said he don't play for real, quote unquote, until after the All-Star break. I said this about Jimmy Butler last year and the year before. Any player that don't prioritize the first half of the year and then they come in and they try to gear it up to make a push, those teams don't usually win because the time that you sacrifice, on your own time, basically, that time the team is trying to sustain. Where you're sitting in a 7 seed geared to face the Boston Celtics in the first round, you could have been in the 4 seed with home court to face Cleveland or maybe New York. You could have been possibly in the top 3, depending on if y'all took the season seriously. The Miami Heat right now are what? They're 6-4 in their last 10. They got a minus 0.6 differential, meaning they lose more than they win in terms of scoring quarters. And when you look at the Heat, they don't have a lot of depth with Gabe Vincent, with Matt Struz. What's your guy name? Omer Yek7 got hurt. Bam having a career year. Kyle Lowry older. Oladipo older, injured. They don't have a lot, so they kind of have to have everything that they have available all the time so that they can be the best version of themselves. Coach Eric Spoelstra is a great coach, but it's only but so much he can do. And with that being said, I just don't see the direction of where Miami can go. They capped out, don't have a lot of picks to trade. They basically going to have to ride out with what they have for the next year or two, and then from there they're going to have to figure it out. When I look at a team like the Hawks, Raptors, and Bulls, I think the biggest this offseason is going to be for the Toronto Raptors, making a decision on Fred VanVleet, making a decision on OG Anunoby, and maybe even Pascal Siakam. You got players like Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa, Matt Flynn. Where are these players going to be next year? How can these players move forward in the timeline of what the team trying to do? If you have Scotty Barnes, who was a lottery pick last year, he have 2 more years before it's time to extend him before the money kick in. And I'm not sure about how much he qualified for, but I think his 3rd and his 4th year can be a telling tale of what type of player he's going to be and can be if they clear the floor for him. When you look at OG, Scotty, Pascal, Boucher, Achiuwa, all them guys kind of play the same way. They kind of play the same way. They all raw, rugged, defensive guys. You have to clear that space. Like OG and Scotty do the same thing. You got to get one of those guys and commit to them. And I think the right answer is Scotty because of age and contract and all those things. You can get a signing trade going with another young team, like maybe a Orlando or OKC. Get back 1 or 2 young project players that you could possibly bring off your bench and gear towards the future with, maybe a pick or 2. Then you can move forward progressively under Scotty Barnes' leadership, and we can see how far it can go. Or pair him and Pascal, and then clear everything else with guards and maybe a stretch big and maybe a true big, and you can figure out the roster moving forward. In terms of the Hawks, I think they're stuck. You got to move on from Capella. His age have progressed out of the timeline. You got Murray and Trey. Where can this go? You just hired Quinn Snyder, who's a great offensive coach, so we know what he's going to try to do. We've seen what he did in Utah, spread the offense out, number 1 offense in the league, number 1 seed, couple of playoff runs. So I'm interested to see what this offseason tells for them. I think if they make it out to play in, they've done in the first round. All of these teams, the Bulls, they making a crazy push since the All-Star break. I think they like 12-6 in their last 18 games. Defense has been one of the top defenses since February. So when you look at them getting Pat Beverly, that's another rotation player that they can add to their depth. That can just move the ball, defend, hold guys accountable, try to, help that mid-level team, make a push. And if they play the right way and do the right thing, with Zach LaVine averaging 30 since the All-Star break, they should be able to beat Toronto in the play-in game. And then you have either Miami or Atlanta. It's probably going to be Miami. That's going to be a tough out, but I like to see it. Between Washington, Indiana, Orlando, Detroit, and Charlotte, I want to talk about Indiana and Orlando. I think these 2 teams really have a bright future, and they have assets that they can keep flipping and rotating the process, like T.J. McConnell, Miles Turner, Buddy Hield. These players, you might keep them for 1 more year, but you could probably trade them, get some picks, get another young player to replace him, and then keep progressively moving the process along. When you look at Tyrese Halliburton, stud, absolute stud, 21 and 11. When you look at they were top five until he had that ankle sprain. He missed 6 weeks. They fell back into the play-in. Since he's been back, they've just been pretty much sustaining. He went down again. They 4-6 in their last 10 games. So his health is going to be a big part of next season. I'm interested to see what they do this offseason in terms of the draft and in terms of bringing in maybe a veteran or moving off of Buddy, Miles, or McConnell. One of those older players. I'm not sure who it is, but I think McConnell is there to stay. I'm just interested to see which one of those older players they either commit to or walk away from. When you look at Orlando with Paolo, stud, Franz, stud. Both of those players averaging 20 points per game nearly. I think Paolo is at 20. Franz is about 19. They both get rebounds, 5 or 6 rebounds. They both get 4 or 5 assists. I think they could do better on defense in terms of forcing turnovers, maybe blocking some shots. But when you look at those guys play, they're highly skilled players. Paolo have a post game at an early age. NBA body, 6'10", like 240, 245, so he has size. Franz is a 6'10", 220 shooting guard, small forward type of player. And when you look at those two players, those are the two wings, like I said about Boston. You have those two versatile players that you could play at the 3, the 2, the 4, maybe even the 5 with Paolo, depending on the rotation. If somebody like Montrezl Harrell at the 5 or something on the other team, you could play a Paolo at the 5, spread it out, handle the ball, get the ball to shooters, play quick, play fast. They have to figure out their guard situation with Suggs, Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, R.J. Hampton. I'm not sure what the decision is going to be between those guards, but it's time. This year they're going to have the Chicago Bulls pick and their pick, which is likely going to be 2 lottery picks, maybe like 8 and 13 or 7 and 14 or 12. You never know, but they're going to have 2 lottery picks this year. Orlando have an opportunity to really improve this young core tremendously if they pick the right pieces and if they rotate the right guys. They moved on from Terrence Ross. He's in Phoenix now. He had a 30-point game the other night. Shout out to him. They just beat Philly yesterday. But when you look at Orlando Magic, I'm interested to see where they can go. In terms of Detroit, they need Cade to stay healthy to keep things short. I love Jalen Duren. He plays the big man role the right way. They went and got Wiseman as a young insurance policy that they can get some value from. I'm interested to see what they can do. But yeah, I just wanted to come talk about the Eastern Conference a little bit. I ain't go hold it too long, get my little ramble on. But man, it's just fun getting back behind the camera. Y'all don't understand how much I talk about basketball, like for real. Y'all need to subscribe to the page if y'all haven't. Y'all need to check the links below. Follow me on Twitter. We host spaces, midnight spaces from Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday or Saturday, and we just talk hoops all night. You know what I mean? We talking about the games as they're on. Building the community and doing things of that sort just to keep the powerhouse rolling. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Like and comment on the video if you haven't. And I'll see y'all next time.